A new tension is gripping Europe. Throughout September 2025, a series of unusual events unfolded in the skies near NATO territory. Drones, military jets, they flew close to borders of NATO states. Some even crossed into sovereign airspace. Poland, Romania, the Baltic region. European leaders pointed to a single source: Russia. The evidence, gathered by sophisticated systems, was met with immediate denial from Moscow. This pattern of action and denial has created a dangerous, uncertain atmosphere. On October 2, 2025, President Vladimir Putin delivered a major speech. He spoke at the Valdai Discussion Club, a forum often used by the Kremlin to project its worldview. Putin addressed the rising tensions, but did not accept responsibility. Instead, he presented a starkly different version. Russia is not the aggressor. He claimed NATO and European members were responsible for escalation. The speech was a counter-accusation meant to reshape the narrative. In his address to the Valdai Discussion Club, Vladimir Putin constructed a specific and detailed narrative. He argued that the conflict in Ukraine and the tensions with NATO were not of Russia's making. He pointed the finger squarely at Europe and the United States. Europe constantly escalates the conflict. They have no other goals, he claimed. This statement attempts to reframe the entire timeline of events. A central pillar of his argument was the idea of NATO expansion, a nation pushed into a corner by an ever-expanding Western alliance. Putin stated, if NATO had not come closer to Russia's borders, the conflict in Ukraine could have been avoided. However, in this context, it was used to justify recent provocations. The message was clear. Because NATO welcomed new members and moved its defensive posture eastward, Russia was left with no choice but to take countermeasures. He hinted that with a different U.S. administration, the conflict might have been avoided, an attempt to inject division into the Western alliance. He claimed that supplying Ukraine with advanced weaponry and critical intelligence means NATO is taking part in combat operations. This line of reasoning is designed to blur the distinction between supporting a sovereign nation and being a direct combatant. By labeling NATO as a co-belligerent, Putin seeks to legitimize a more aggressive Russian posture. When asked if Russia planned to attack NATO, he dismissed the idea as nonsense. He advised European nations to calm down, sleep well, and deal with their own problems. He spoke of Russians' pain watching Ukrainians suffer, a stunning display of hypocrisy from the author of that tragedy. Putin's narrative, while internally consistent, crumbles under factual scrutiny. His claim that NATO escalation caused the conflict reverses the sequence of events. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 was an unprovoked act of aggression by Russia. That invasion triggered Europe's security shift. Nations like Finland and Sweden, neutral for decades, sought NATO membership as a direct result of Russia's actions. NATO's enhanced presence was a response, not a cause. International law distinguishes aid to a defender from direct combat. Supplying weapons or intelligence does not make NATO a co-belligerent. Putin's dismissals are contradicted by multiple NATO countries' evidence. The drone incursions and jet incursions are documented events, tracked by radar and surveillance systems. A Russian drone crash in Romania. Polish jets scrambled to intercept. Russia's strategy is plausible deniability. Turn clarity into debate. This false reality tactic echoes his 2021 essay, Denying Ukraine's Legitimacy. The Valdai speech continues that strategy, portraying Russia as victim forced to act. Beyond the smokescreen, the first real objective is to sow division within NATO and Europe. Russia has always sought to break the West, especially Europe, Zelensky warned. Each incursion is a probe, designed to elicit different reactions, to fracture a unified front. Poland, bordering Ukraine and Kaliningrad, reacts urgently and severely. France or Spain may feel less immediate pressure, a gap Russia exploits. This fuels debates over responses, wasting time and political capital. Estonia's Hanno Pevkur Russia pushes allies to deal with our own matters. Airspace violations, cyber attacks, disinformation, each forces nations inward. Attacks sit just below an undeniable act of war, preserving doubt. When confusion reigns, unity falters. Russia gains freedom of action in Ukraine and hybrid warfare across the West. The goal isn't full-scale war, it's paralysis by 1,000 small cuts. The answer to this strategy will shape Europe's security. The stakes are high, the path forward is fraught with risk and uncertainty. September's incidents weren't minor violations, they were a signal. The second real reason is practical, to test NATO's defenses and gauge resolve. Each approach is a reconnaissance mission in disguise. As Hanno Pevkur put it, Russia is testing how far they can go. These incidents are carefully calibrated, not random. How quickly are jets scrambled? What are air defense response times? Where are potential vulnerabilities? It's also a psychological test of political will. If NATO only escorts, Moscow may read restraint as unwillingness to escalate. Analysts note these incursions gauge resolve and seek to sow disunity. They impose costs, expensive missiles against low-tech drones. Repeated at scale, this strains inventories and budgets. A shoot-down could hand Putin a propaganda victory validating claims of NATO aggression. He would use it to justify harsher responses. Each drone is a baited hook. That's the point. Faced with this complex threat, NATO is not without options. Reinforce the unity that Russia seeks to undermine. Present a united front in public messaging. Rapid, transparent intelligence sharing ensures all allies operate from the same facts. Invest in initiatives like Pearl to strengthen collective air defense. Publicize detailed radar, imagery, and debris analysis, hard to refute. Declassification pierces denial and builds public trust. Clarity is a weapon in hybrid war. A kinetic response, shooting down drones or jets violating Allied airspace, is hotly debated. Proponents argue restraint looks like weakness. Decisive action restores deterrence. Yet even if legal, such action risks major escalation and plays into Kremlin narratives. A middle ground. Intercept drones and missiles while still over Ukrainian airspace near NATO borders. Tighten economic pressure, long-term attrition on Russia's war machine. Target owners, crews, and insurers of the shadow fleet to curtail oil revenues. Build a multi-layered drone wall, drones, sensors, radar, and anti-drone systems as a technological barrier. Force provocations to become overt and costly, raise the price of aggression. Above all, clarity, calm, and unwavering unity